Hi everybody, my name is Peter Nowlin. I'm a knife sharpener here and I live in the Halifax area of Nova Scotia. So the purpose of this video is to not just give a brief demonstration on how you can sharpen a knife, but also, and including the grasping of the fundamentals. I'll go through all that, but also to show you how to just get over, stop watching so many videos and stuff like that, and realize that you don't really need to spend a lot of money to get into knife sharpening. You can start at a minimalistic approach. You only need a few stones. You only need one really to get started, but I recommend 3. And I'm going to show you everything I've got here. I've been buying all my sharpening products from at paulsfinest.com. So I've been dealing with Paul for about 10 years, and we're working together on this video to try to help you out on learn how to sharpen a knife. So I'm going to make some recommendations before I get into it. After I get into it, you're not going to see me. You'll just see my hands at work. So what I recommend is that, and for those who are doing it, stop watching YouTube videos, stop reading the forums, and getting overwhelmed by the unbelievable amount of information out there. Some of it good, some of it not so good. But it can throw you off, because a lot of people ask me questions about what grit to start with, what grit to finish with, toothy edge, all these things, different types of water stones, what brand should I have, what equipment do I need? And to find out that some of them never even sharpened a knife, never touched a water stone before. So the thing you need to do is just get at it, get practicing, get a grasp of the fundamentals. It's not that hard, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm going to just get into it, show you some things. How that's the end of my little talk here, my little lecture. So I'm going to adjust the camera so you can see my the water stones, what I have here. Okay. So for this video, I'm going to be using 3. I'm going to be sharpening a Victorinox chef's knife. I also got this from Paul, and I'm going to use 3 water stones. Sharpening glass 320, a coarse stone, and I've got it. I'm just getting one of the things I highly recommend you do is get a good stone, a nice stone holder to keep everything stable. The last thing you need is everything moving around, so you don't want to worry about that. You need a stone flattener, and I know there are some videos out there of people who don't believe in flattening knives. And there's a popular YouTube guy that does all this, and that's not true. Just don't listen to that. You need to keep your stones flat. They come flat for a reason. We'll keep them flat. And I'm going to use, 3 stones, a coarse, medium, and fine. The medium is 1,000 grit. So anything coarse is anything from 120, about 800. Above that, you're getting up into the medium range. So I'm going to use this. This is a Nanowa Superstone 1000. I'm going to finally finish off with a finishing stone. This happens to be a Sharpening Pro 5000. Okay, so we're going to go from that. The key I want you to remember is that when you're sharpening, get the knife as sharp as you possibly can on the first stone you use, which is a coarse stone. Don't be afraid to use a coarse stone, folks. I know folks have read the forums or at the top saying that you only need a coarse stone if you're fixing a damaged knife or blah blah blah. A coarse stone is good to start with. I start every knife on a coarse stone, and I sharpen thousands of knives. It just teaches you to adjust pressure, to use pressure wisely. Pressure is a huge thing in the successful sharpening, is how to manipulate pressure, and you're gonna be able to do that. So stop watching videos, just besides this one of course, and then just get on to it. Like I said, all you need is to grasp the fundamentals. Knife sharpening is all about removing fatigued metal from the primary edge and bevels in a very controlled manner. The level of control is going to depend on your skill level. So at first it's going to be a little off. Everything's going to be awkward. You're going to build new muscle memories here, sharpening muscles. So it's all about timing, being patient. All you need is a bit of passion, some patience, and persistence. Okay. So like I said, we're going to remove metal in a very controlled manner. We're going to create a burr on both sides of the knife from heel to tip, and then we're going to concentrate on the most important part, and that's removing the burr. Okay, don't sweat angles. I'm going to show you some little tricks here. Don't sweat the brands of stones. Just sweat. If you're going to worry about something, worry about gaining consistency. So I'm going to show you how I sharpen a knife. Okay, all this is just a simple little tray with a little holder on it that I got somewhere cheap, and this is just a nice little nano stone holder that I've got the Sharpening glass 320 in it. So I always start the same thing. I developed a pattern. I've tried many different ways, and so this is a pattern that I'm going to show you, and I recommend you follow this. Once you get good at this, or you can do whatever you want. There's different techniques. They all work. I'm going to show you the technique I use. There's nothing weird about it. Okay, so I always start the same way. Now I can sharpen with both hands, but most people just use one dominant hand to sharpen. That's fine. So that's what I'll do. I always start at the tip, and then I work my way up to the heel, then back down to the tip, and I continue this process until I form the burr. The burr is always going to form on the opposite side of where you're sharpening. So in this case, the burr will form here. Think of the burr as a flow of steel, a waterfall or an avalanche of steel coming down the side of this knife, but it doesn't come off. It's the actions of this abrasive and your pressure that create this avalanche of steel. It doesn't fall off, though. It flips over the other side, and then we'll be able to feel what's called a burr. Then we're going to flip the knife to the other side and do it, and create another burr on this side, and then we're going to remove the burr. Okay, so that's all it is. So let's go. I'm going to start at the tip. Now, important part. Before you even start sharpening, make sure your knife isn't bent or nothing wrong with the knife that's going to hinder the process. Also, feel the knife. I always feel the knife to make sure there's no, especially around the tip area, because if there's a little bit of steel sticking out there, it can gouge into your stone. So there's two areas of the knife that are more difficult to sharpen than the rest of it. The heel and the tip. And so it's all to be all about pressure to rectify this issue. Okay? So the tip especially. As we all know, the knife tapers from the heel, from the heel area down to the tip. You can see it's thinner there. So if we need to compensate for that thickness in the steel, and the knife. So if we don't do that, we're going to end up what's called a bevel creep. This area, the tip area, is going to become weak. But it's an easy fix, folks. Very easy to do this. So, and how do you do it? So first of all, before I even start, let's talk about angles. All kitchen knives can be sharpened between 10 and 15 degrees. So hard steel, nice, handmade Japanese, harder steel, you can do between 10 and 15 degrees per side. Anything above that, between 15 and 20 degrees. So there's not much. It's all we're talking about is a little bit of variance here. So what's a good angle to start? How do you... what I used to do was get 3 coins and I used to use that as a visual reference for my angle. And the angle, sharpening angle, is the area between the spine of the knife and the surface of a flat stone. Okay, and I'll get into flattening here in a bit. So we want, for this knife, let's start with about 16 degrees. Okay, so what's a good way to find 16 degrees? You can use a tip of your pinky to put it in here, and all you do is get your tip of your pinky and put it between the top of the spine there and the stone, and that's going to give you a visual clue of what your sharpening angle should be, and you can build on this. Don't worry about having different angles for different knives yet. You won't be able to control them. So all we're doing right now is finding one good angle for every knife you've got. You can do this, and then build muscle memory on this one angle. Once you've got that down, you are good to go. So enough chatting for now. I'm going to show you how I sharpen a knife. Okay. A little bit more chatting right here. The tip. Remember I told you? Okay, so we're going to find our angle. It's right there. To compensate for the thinness of the tip area here, all you need to do is raise your angle. See how my elbow's going up in here? It's not in a natural position. When I sharpen, my arm is just hanging down. My arm is just hanging down, okay? But when I do the tip, all I do is raise my elbow a tiny bit, and that raises the area at the tip. That's what you want to do. Only by a degree or two, okay? So, and when you sharpen the tip, make sure it's actually touching the stone. You'll see a lot of videos where the tip is off the stone. It's not doing anything. So focus, slow down, focus, concentrate. Okay, here we go. I'm going to move. I'm going to put a bit of water on the stone. Keep the stone lubricated. These are splash and go stones. You don't need to soak these. Just put a bit of water on them. And then I'm going to start at the bottom of the stone, and I'm going to apply pressure as I'm moving the stone from the bottom to the top of the stone. Pressure, then I'm going to release the pressure. These are called trailing strokes. And remember, my elbow's up. Pressure, no pressure. Pressure, no pressure. Now I've done the tip area. I'm going to lower my elbow, and I'm going to continue this process. Pressure, and I'm going to do the knife in sections. Pressure, no pressure. Now I'm going to move my fingers down. Nice and slow. Keeping an eye on that angle. That's your goal. Consistency. So I've gone from the tip to the heel, making sure I apply pressure in the very heel area. Now I'm going to go from the heel to the tip. And after a while, you'll be able to move more fluidly like this. It comes with practice. Tips up, my elbows up to do the tip. So now I've done that, I'm going to feel for a burr. I'm going to hold the knife at this angle, and I'm going to run my thumb over this way, never up and down, just across, and I can feel a rough area from tip all the way to the heel. Your goal is eventually to build a burr that's as subtle as possible, just a tiny little burr, okay? Because remember, you're removing metal here. We don't want to remember, we're removing metal in a controlled manner. That level of control, again, is going to get better and better as you move along. So, I feel a burr there. So I've successfully used the abrasive powers of this stone to remove fatigued metal off this knife. Remember, so the knife is dull because it looks like that, right? The steel is folded over on either side. It's failed. So my goal is to remove that metal and reestablish this primary edge, the sharp part, okay? So I've done this. Now I don't need to work on this side knife. I'm going to work on the other side. So if you can use both hands, that's fine. You can do that. If not, I'm going to show you how I do this. I start up here with the knife perpendicular to the stone, because if I did at this 45-degree angle here, this handle gets in the way. So I have to do this right here. I'm going to put another extra pressure finger right there at the very tip of the heel, and these are my other two pressure fingers. All the sharpening is taking place below my fingers. I'm going to find my angle, right? And then slowly drag the knife towards me, applying pressure as I do so. Then I'm going to let go. Pressure, no pressure. Now I've done that area. I'm going to go back to this 45-degree angle. Elbows up because I'm at the tip. I'm not counting my strokes. I'm not trying. Counting, I find, tends to automate a process that shouldn't be automated. This is something you need your senses for. But you can establish a rhythm, maybe 3 times up and down or something like that, or 2 times. It's up to you. But don't be counting like 10 strokes on either side. I don't like that. Okay. So now I feel for a burr on this side. I can feel a burr on either side, all the way up. Good. So now what do? Now it's time to remove the burr. So I've established the burr. I'm successful so far. Now I want to remove it. So all I do is reduce the pressure by 50%. The initial pressure was a moderate pressure, heavy to moderate. It's different on every knife, depending on the condition of the knife, but it's enough to form the burr. Now I don't want to form any more burrs on this stone. I want to remove them, and I'm going to start removing it on the same stone. But it's the same thing. It goes a little more quickly now. So I start at the tip, elbow up. And I'm using the entire stone as I sharpen. Okay. Then I'm going to flip the knife over, and remember, I'm at 50% reduction in pressure. The last thing I'm going to do is just these dropping strokes right here. Very light pressure. Extremely light. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is called what I call the light test. And I didn't create this test. People have been doing it smarter than I have, been doing it for years. So all I'm doing, I'm going to hold a knife up like this, right, and I'm looking straight down the edge under a good light. And what I'm looking for are any reflections. If I see any reflections, that means the light is reflecting off metal that I haven't removed. It's still there. So if I do see a reflection, I just go back at that area, keeping in mind where the reflection was, and go at it again with light pressure. Then I look again, and I see no light. The goal is to not see any light there at all. So I can't see any light, which means now I can move to the next stone. So I'm finished with the coarse stone, and I'm going to move to a medium grit stone. So I'm going to make sure this stone is flat. This is a nano super stone. Be careful with this. A little soft, but it's nice. Got a nice feel to it. So, flattening. They don't have to be mathematically perfectly flat, but you don't want any dishing. So the way you can do it is just draw a grid with a pencil, get it over, and get a stone flattener. This is a good one. I got this from Paul as well. A little flattener. All you do is just go over the stone, and do the edges, round them off, so that there's no marks. Okay? I do this about every knife, about every 5 minutes when I'm sharpening. I just keep on top of it. So now what do? Now I'm on a medium grit stone. The knife is starting to get sharp. The goal is to get the knife as sharp as you possibly can on every stone. So don't move to the next stone until you finish your work. There's no light on the coarse stone. Now I'm going to go again. This is going to go a little more quickly now because my burr formation is done. This process I'm going to do now will probably create another micro burrs. So you create an initial burr and then micro burrs. And that means if you form another burr on this, it means you're hitting the edge of the edge. That's your target area, the very edge of this knife. That's what you need to sharpen. So if your angle's down too low, you're going to be hitting the shoulders of the knife, okay? You need to be at the right angle, which is your pinky angle for now, until that's a good angle, and then we're going to go for it, okay? So my elbow's up. You'll notice that the stone feels different, feels nice. Going to use the whole stone. Feel a little tiny burr. My elbow's up, and drop it back down. There's a last stage, extremely light pressure here. You can use the same levels of pressure every stone if you like. Moderate to heavy to get the burr formed, then a 50% reduction, then extremely light pressure. So this black stuff here you can see on this glazing thing, it'll come off with flattening. So don't sweat that stuff. You can do that, worry about that later. Okay? That will all come off. So now the final stone, the finishing stone. I don't have to look at the edge, the light underneath it. I know that there's no light. Okay, so now I want to make sure this knife is sharp. So I've got some trick paper here, pre-cut in specific areas just to make it look like I know what I'm doing. Okay. So we're getting there, okay? I'm only joking. So, get our stone, make sure it's nice and flat. Now, what grit do you finish at? You could finish the knife off at 1000 grit if you want, and if you wanted to do that, if you're happy with that, You could still, I recommend still use this stone, even if your goal is to finish at 1000 grit. If you have a 5000 grit stone like this one, a beautiful stone here, you can just simply do some stropping strokes like that with a very light pressure. This will help you remove the burr. And it'll put the finishing touch on this knife, okay? However, if you want to go a little further, and that's fine like that, you can experiment, make mistakes. Learning is all about making mistakes and making up for them, okay? I've made a million mistakes. I don't care. That's how I'm getting better at knife sharpening. I'm still learning, okay? We all are. Okay, tips up. Reducing pressure. Focusing on maintaining my angle, because that's the key. Consistency is the key. Very light. Maintain. I'm stropping this knife at the same angle that I was sharpening it at, or trying to anyway. So now the last thing you can do, if you got one, is use a leather strop. I just use a bare leather strop. I got this from Paul as well. It's a nano project, and it's the same as if you were using a stone. Very light, and this will make the knife. It'll make it pop. It'll be a little bit sharper than it was when you finished. Okay, so now, let's see if I successfully sharpen this knife. Okay. Get my trick paper, have a look at the edge. You're going to look, bevels are nice and consistent, feels sharp. Oh. So, I think that's, folks, that's all there is to it. Remember, manage your expectations. You're not going to get a knife razor sharp the first time you try. Nobody is. It doesn't matter. You're going to learn. It's a journey. You could be learning over 20 years. The key is just get to it. You know, just practice. The goal of building consistency, enjoying the process, and just don't have to fork out a lot of money. Just get at it, and you're going to be very happy. It's an extremely rewarding process, and you're going to love it. Okay. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.